Welcome back. Let's continue the conversation on the situation in Rivers State. I'm now being joined on the program by Nelson Ekujumi, who is a political affairs analyst. Nelson, thank you very much for coming on the program. We've seen demonstrations in Rivers State where hundreds of people gathered at Government House condemning the agreement signed by the governor and his political godfather and other people. I'm talking about that 8-point resolution now that they reached at the presidency, condemning it and saying that, look, that the president is not from Rivers State and calling on the governor not to respect the agreement. What's your take on that?
Well, it's an unfortunate development. I just hope that it is not the voice of Jacob or the hand of Esau that we are seeing there, because when that agreement was reached, the victorious that came to the public space, we saw the signature of the governor on that agreement.
And the Commissioner of Information has come out.
And I'm sure the governor is not an infant. The governor, for somebody to be elected as the governor of a state, that person has enough intellectual capacity as well as mental capacity to think what is right. So these demonstrations that is going on now, or that has occurred today, I want to believe strongly that there is more to it than meets the eye. And whether we want to admit or not, all fingers will point to the government house in Rivers State because this was a demonstration that took place there. And the demonstration, took place, was directed to the government house, which shows clearly, except if we want to be
clever.
It
took place right inside government.
Yes, except if we want to be clever by half. And if we are doing that, it means we are deluding ourselves. So the hand of the voice of Jacob, but the voice of Esau, but the voice of Jacob or the hand of Esau is very, very glaring in this episode.
Do you think the governor is coming under enormous pressure from some people around him to renege on the agreement he signed?
I think if we look at these issues since it started, the Rivers, if we call it crisis, I don't think the governor has shown statesmanship, in all his activities. Because I looked at the destruction or the demolition of the legislative chambers. That was an assault on democracy, if you ask me. I don't know which right or under what authority the governor thought he derived the powers. Just because he's at loggerheads with the legislature, that he has to bring down the structure such that the legislators will not be able to sit. And we all know that in a democracy, the legislature is the bastion. In every system of government, you can have other structures, institutions in place, except the legislature. So, and you also look at the issue of presentation of a budget to 4 legislators out of a 32 House of Assembly members.
But the argument is that the other members, the other 27 members of the House, that they've had their seats declared vacant, and so that the House is only left with 4 members, and that it was proper for the 4 members to have sat and taking that budget.
Well, to declare the seat of a legislator vacant, that pronouncement can only come from the courts, because the legislature cannot be a judge in its own case. It is an independent and unbiased, umpire that will come into the fray to settle, frayed names. So one expects that if you assume that these legislators have defected and by doing that they have violated the Constitution, it is your duty to take that process to a logical conclusion by going to court, and not for you to, in your own wisdom, assume the role of the court. That is usurpation of powers, if you ask me. So the conduct of the governor so far, I remember when the crisis started and the governor led some persons to the legislative chambers, and they claimed it was shot at by the security agencies, who also responded that they saw a lot of people were unwanted in that area. The legislative chambers or the legislative environment is a security zone. It's not a place where anybody can just walk in whenever he or she. The person has, because that is a place for government business, the business of the totality of the people of Rivers State. And you listen to comments from the governor the other time when he condemned the actions of the legislators has been illegal. That was absolutely irresponsible, if you ask me. The governor does not have any right to describe the conduct of the legislators. The same way the legislators themselves wouldn't do that or should not do that to the executive. So one expects reciprocity in terms of respect and responsibility by public office holders. And if you ask me, the governor, from the way he has conducted himself in this whole issue, has not conducted himself as somebody who is fit for the exalted seat of the governor of a state. Because from his body language, from feelers we are getting out there, it's like the governor is listening to too many voices. And at the end of the day, and in listening to these voices, which is not unnatural when there's crisis, one expects the governor to be guided majorly by the oath he swore to the Constitution, that he will abide by constitutional provisions. Because if you look at some of his actions, they are totally at variance with constitutional provisions of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But let's face it. Look, in all of this, we do not know what the problem is between the governor and his deputy, because both men have actually not come out openly.
The governor and his godfather.
I mean, the governor and his political
Extreme
godfather.
godfather, yeah.
Exactly. Both men have not come out openly to say what exactly the problem is, but we continue to see this fight. And the question I ask is, do you think this is a case? Because so many people have said, look, this is just a case of the godfather not allowing his political godson to work, to do his work, so to speak. But the question I ask is, why is it difficult for both men to actually sit down and sort out their issues? The governor should understand his political godfather very well, and that he needed him at some point to become governor. And this man went all out to make him governor. So why then is it difficult for him to learn to manage this political governor, this political godfather now, rather than let this thing blow open and then affect the entire state?
Well, the truth of the matter is that democracy, like we all know, it's a convergence of various persons' views. And, just like in a political party where people of different tendencies come together to subsume their own personal interests under the collective interest of the party. So, in that same manner, the disagreement between the governor and his and his political godfather, the minister of the Federal Capital Territory, is nothing new. Even the tongue and the teeth do quarrel. So if they have grievances or if they have disagreements, which is a natural occurrence with man, because even a husband and a wife or person, we are privy to to the reality that we have seen citizens in this country all over the world who have celebrated 40, 50 years in marriage. And for them to be that old in that relationship, you can be sure that they have passed through, many murky waters. So we cannot really pin our hands to what is the cause of this quarrel. But be that as it may, one expects that both gladiators must be guided by the collective interest of the people of Rivers State. That must be the uppermost thing in their mind. That how do we do justice to the people of Rivers State? How do we ensure that the democracy in Nigeria is deepened? People saying or alleging that Mr. President does not have a right to intervene in Rivers State, they are making a grave mistake, because Rivers State is part of Nigeria. If Rivers State is in trouble today, you can be rest assured that the other part of Nigeria are also in trouble. And
in any case, the president didn't intervene in this initially, but there was a grove. There was a growing calls for him to intervene.
Yes.
And so he did intervene. And some people have said, look, the agreement that came out of that intervention was skewed. The question is, why didn't the governor oppose it?
Well, if anybody says the agreement was skewed, I'm sure that agreement was reached in the presence of all the parties. And they publicly agreed to it. That was why the outcome of that meeting was made public. So if the governor is too shy to come publicly after he must have had so many voices to say, oh, this agreement I'm no longer going to keep to it, then he should be man enough to do that, rather than, coming through the back door. So for me, the agreement, no matter what anybody says, was reached in an atmosphere that nobody can come out and say the governor signed or considered to that agreement under duress. Then the governor should let us know. We are Nigerians. We are very much interested. We are in Lagos now. Whatever happens to Rivers State must concern us, because, like we say, an injury to one is an injury to all. So this agreement, if the governor is not at peace with that, is not in consonance with that agreement because so many voices have spoken to him, then he should be man enough to come forward. And those who are also egging the governor on must also be careful, because today, by coming to renege on an agreement you signed voluntarily, it speaks volume about your character. And that is the picture the whole world is watching now.
Let me ask you a final question. What do you make of those who are saying, look, the governor should just jettison this 8-point resolution and let this be resolved by constitutional means, by legal means?
Well, if that be the route that the governor wants to take based on this advice, I wish him the best of luck. But I can assure him and those his advisors that it is not every issue that can be solved, legally. There are some issues that have to be solved using, our local methods of, give and take, like we say in a collective bargaining. It is not every fight or every battle that you go out there that you want to go and win. There are some battles you live, like we say, he who fights and run away lives to fight another day. So I just hope that reason will prevail, and the governor, if he feels he wants to jettison this agreement, like I said earlier on, it will reflect on his character, and people are watching. But whichever way he wants to take, I just hope that the governor will continue to abide by his oath to the Constitution and not do anything untoward, in arriving at a just resolution of this crisis that, the people of Rivers State are presently going through.
Nelson Ekujumi, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us, don't go away. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.